The day it all fell apart started like any other. I woke up to the smell of coffee, the faint sound of the shower running, and the distant hum of Lisa talking on the phone. I didn't think much of it. She took calls early sometimes, but something in her voice was off. Too soft, too careful, like she was trying to keep a secret wrapped between her words. I leaned against the doorframe of our bedroom, still half asleep, listening. No, he's still sleeping. Yeah. Last night was amazing. A pause. Then a low, throaty laugh. The kind I hadn't heard in months. The kind she used to save for me. I felt something squeeze in my chest, but my brain fought against it. No, couldn't be what I thought. I stepped closer. The bathroom door was cracked open just enough for me to see her reflection in the mirror. Wrapped in a towel, wet hair clinging to her shoulders, lips curled into a smug little smile as she listened to whoever was on the other end. My stomach turned. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Don't worry about him. He's clueless. I don't know how long I stood there. Could have been seconds, minutes. The sound of the shower dripping, the distant chirping of birds outside, the low murmur of her voice. It all felt too normal for what was actually happening. I should have burst in. I should have snatched the phone from her hands and demanded the truth right then and there. But instead, I turned away, heart hammering, thoughts racing. I needed proof. Solid proof. So I waited. That night, Lisa was different. Too affectionate. Too sweet. She curled up next to me on the couch, tracing lazy circles on my arm. Something she hadn't done in months. Guilt. That's what it was. Guilt disguised as affection. I played along. The next few days, I started watching her more closely. She was careful, but not careful enough. I caught glimpses of secret smiles at her phone, text messages she angled away from me, excuses that didn't quite add up. Then came the night I finally knew. Lisa was in the shower again. Her phone was on the nightstand, unguarded for the first time in weeks. My hands shook as I picked it up, my gut already telling me what I was about to find. A text popped up before I even had to search. I can still taste you. Same time tomorrow. The contact name? Just the letter J. The room spun. My vision blurred at the edges. My hands tightened around the phone so hard I thought I might crush it. I scrolled. Message after message. Explicit. Intimate. Brutal. Every single one a knife in my ribs. And then the final nail in the coffin. Picture. Not just of her, but of them. Tangled up together in the sheets of some hotel bed. Her face flushed. His arm wrapped around her waist like he owned her. Like I was nothing. The door to the bathroom opened. Steam billowed out. Lisa stepped into the bedroom, towel wrapped around her body, shaking out her damp hair. She looked up, saw me holding her phone, and froze. For the first time in our marriage, I saw it. The fear. The raw, naked guilt flashing across her face before she shoved it down and tried to play it off. I lifted my eyes to hers, and without saying a single word, I turned the phone around so she could see exactly what I was looking at. She didn't even try to deny it, didn't even flinch. Instead, she rolled her eyes, exhaled sharply, and said the words that broke whatever was left of me. Don't touch me. I can't stand you. My ears started ringing. My vision darkened at the edges. And then, in a voice colder than I'd ever heard, she added, I was going to tell you eventually. I found out why. And she was shocked. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Lisa didn't look ashamed. She didn't look scared. If anything, she looked annoyed, like I had the audacity to catch her in the middle of her little affair. I stood there, gripping her phone so tightly my knuckles ached. My mind was a hurricane, thoughts colliding and crashing. But somehow, the only thing that came out of my mouth was, who is he?
Lisa sighed.
Not a guilty sigh, not a regretful one, just impatient. Does it matter? She said, walking past me like I was an inconvenience. She grabbed a lotion bottle off the dresser and started rubbing it into her arms, completely unfazed. Does it matter? I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. This wasn't happening. This wasn't real. I stepped forward, forcing her to look at me. Yeah, Lisa, it matters. My voice was shaking, but I didn't care. Who the hell is Jay? She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled the towel off her head, letting her hair fall over her shoulders. Slowly, Deliberately, she walked over to the closet, pulled out a nightgown, and slipped it over her head like we were having a normal conversation about groceries or the weather. I was about to demand an answer when her phone vibrated in my hand. Another text. From Jay. Tell him yet? Hope not. I love when you're still his wife. The room tilted. I looked up at Lisa, hoping, praying she'd show some kind of remorse. But she just smirked. I guess you know now, she said, voice light, almost teasing. So what are you gonna do about it? The way she said it, like she wasn't worried about losing me. Like she had already decided I wasn't worth fighting for. Something inside me snapped. I threw her phone against the wall. It shattered on impact, pieces flying across the floor. Lisa gasped, not out of fear, but out of pure, unfiltered rage. What the F *** K? David? She shrieked, stepping forward, hands clenched. Are you insane? I'm insane. I laughed, shaking my head. You're sleeping with someone else? And I'm the crazy one? She rolled her eyes, brushing past me again, muttering, Oh, grow up, grow up. I felt my pulse hammering in my skull, my hands shaking at my sides. How long? I forced out through clenched teeth. Lisa didn't answer right away. She walked over to the dresser, grabbed a hairbrush, and started combing through her damp hair, acting like this was just another Tuesday night. Lisa. My voice was low, dangerous. How long? She met my eyes in the mirror and finally, she gave me an answer. A year. The air left my lungs. A year. I staggered back like she had physically hit me. A year. 12 months. 52 weeks. Every moment, every shared dinner, every stupid inside joke. Tainted. All while she was with someone else. I could barely breathe. Why? Lisa turned to face me fully now, arms crossed over her chest. And then she said something that changed everything. Because I could. I stared at her, stunned into silence. She took a step closer, tilting her head slightly. Because you're predictable, David. Because you're safe. You always have been. And safe gets boring. I felt like I was going to be sick. My hands clenched into fists at my sides. So you just, what? Decided to throw everything away because you were bored? Lisa sighed, exasperated. Look, I didn't plan for this to happen, okay? But then I met Jay and, I don't know, he makes me feel alive. I laughed bitterly. Alive? She nodded. Yeah, like I actually want to wake up in the morning. Like I'm not just going through the motions with. She waved a hand at me. This? I repeated, voice hollow. Yeah, this. She motioned between us like we were nothing more than a bad business deal. David, let's be real. You're not exactly exciting. I felt something deep inside me splinter. Lisa sighed again, rubbing her temples. Look, if you're done with the whole dramatic reaction thing, we should probably figure out what's next. I blinked. What's next? Yeah, I mean, you're obviously upset. So, do you want a divorce? Or do you want to try and be a big boy about this? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Be a big boy about this? My vision blurred at the edges. My heart beat a thunderous roar in my ears. She had destroyed our marriage, lied to my face, and now she was acting like it was my decision whether we stayed together? Like I should be grateful she was even giving me a choice? Lisa tilted her head again, waiting for an answer. I took a slow breath, my mind whirring. She thought she had the upper hand. She thought she had won. But she had no idea what was coming next. I didn't answer her. Not yet. I just stared at Lisa, letting the weight of her words settle in my bones. Be a big boy about this. The sheer audacity. The cruelty disguised as casual indifference. Lisa was standing there, looking at me like she had already decided how this was going to go. Like I would be just another obstacle to sidestep on her way to whatever life she thought she deserved. But she didn't know me as well as she thought. I forced my face into something neutral, something unreadable. I needed to think. I needed to be smart. She wanted a reaction, wanted me to break down, yell, plead. Something that would give her even more power. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. So I exhaled slowly and said, I need a drink. Lisa blinked. For the first time, I saw a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. She had been expecting rage, maybe heartbreak. But calm? That threw her off. I turned, walked out of the bedroom, and headed downstairs to the kitchen. My hands were still shaking as I grabbed a glass and poured whiskey up to the brim. I didn't even like whiskey. It was Lisa's favorite. I took a sip, let the burn anchor me, then pulled my phone from my pocket. My mind was already working, piecing together the next steps. Lisa thought she had control. She thought she had options. But what she didn't realize was, I wasn't going to let her walk away from this unscathed. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Mark. Mark was an old friend. He also happened to be a private investigator. I shot him a text. Need a favor.
Urgent.
Within seconds, 3 dots appeared. What's up? My wife's cheating. I need everything you can find on the guy. Name, address, job, everything. Mark didn't even ask for details. I'll get on it. Give me a couple of hours. I put my phone down, exhaling slowly. I was done being the clueless husband. Done being the safe choice. If Lisa wanted to burn everything down, I'd light the damn match myself. A soft shuffle of footsteps behind me. I didn't turn around. I felt her presence before she spoke. You're taking this well. I took another sip, savoring the taste. Should I be throwing things? Crying? Begging you to stay? Lisa leaned against the kitchen island, arms crossed. I don't know. I just expected more of a reaction. I finally turned to look at her. What would you prefer? Should I fight for you, Lisa? Should I pretend this marriage is salvageable? I took a step closer, lowering my voice. Or should I just accept that you were planning to leave anyway? She hesitated. Not much, but enough. She hadn't planned for this. She had been so sure she had me figured out, so sure I'd crumble. But now she was seeing something new, something dangerous. I placed my glass down with a soft clink. You said you were going to tell me eventually. Was that before or after you had a solid backup plan? Lisa's jaw tightened. That's not. Don't lie to me. She closed her mouth. I saw the calculation happening behind her eyes. You've been sleeping with him for a year. I continued, my voice steady. You don't risk something like that unless you're planning for an exit. She didn't deny it. That was all the confirmation I needed. I picked up my glass again, swirling the liquid inside. So tell me, Lisa, what was the plan? Were you going to drain our bank account first? Wait until you had a new place? Or were you just going to disappear one day and let me figure it out on my own? Lisa exhaled sharply, shifting her weight. I wasn't going to disappear. I was going to talk to you, David. But then you found out and now the timeline's just been moved up a little? I finished for her. She flinched. Barely. It was my turn to smirk. You're enjoying this, she accused. I tilted my head. Enjoying? No. But I am watching you squirm. And I have to admit, it's a nice change of pace. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. Jesus, you always play the victim. Victim. A slow, humorless laugh crawled up my throat. You know what, Lisa? You're right. I was the victim. But not anymore. Something flickered across her face. A flash of unease. She pushed off the counter. I'm going to bed. You can stay down here and feel sorry for yourself if you want. I let her leave, because she had no idea what was coming next. I didn't sleep that night. Lisa did. Peacefully. Like she didn't just rip apart 6 years of marriage with a smug little smirk and a shrug. I could hear her breathing from the hallway, soft and even. Like this was just another night for her. It wasn't for me. I sat in the dark living room, my mind burning through every memory, every conversation, every moment in the past year that I had dismissed as nothing. The sudden late nights at work, the random business trips that didn't make sense, the lack of affection, the way she'd pull away when I kissed her, the way she suddenly needed space. I had been a fool, a walking, breathing joke. At 2:34 a.m., my phone buzzed. Mark, got what you need? Call me? I was already dialing before I finished reading. He picked up on the first ring. All right, he said. You sitting down? Just tell me. Mark exhaled. His name is Jason Carter. 36. Works in finance, but get this, he's married. Wife's name is Amanda. They've got 2 kids. I shut my eyes, gripping the bridge of my nose. Of course he's married. Mark continued. He's been renting a hotel room every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 6 months. Same place every time, the Ashton, downtown. I felt something deep in my gut twist. I knew the Ashton. Lisa had mentioned it once, casually, saying her company sometimes booked it for out-of-town clients. The lies were so smooth, so effortless. I forced my voice to stay even. You find anything on the wife? Amanda Carter? Yeah, she's a lawyer. Corporate. Works long hours. Probably why the bastard has so much time to screw around. He paused. I can get you her number if you want. I opened my mouth. Closed it. My first instinct was to say no. Dragging another person into this mess felt cruel. But then I pictured Lisa smirking at me, rolling her eyes, calling me predictable. And I realized something. Lisa thought she had control. She thought she was going to win. I wasn't going to let that happen. Yeah, I said. Send me the number. The next morning I acted normal. Lisa came downstairs, stretching, yawning, stealing a sip from my coffee like she hadn't just admitted to a year-long affair. Like we were just another happy couple starting their day. I let her. She sat across from me, scrolling through her replacement phone, because of course, she had already bought a new one, and said, I'm going out for a bit later, meeting a friend. A friend. I stirred my coffee. Jason. Lisa froze. It lasted half a second, but I saw it. The way her fingers tensed around her mug. The way her eyes flicked up to mine, sharp, assessing. Excuse me? She said, tilting her head. I smiled. Not a nice one. Jason Carter. 36. Works in finance. Married with 2 kids. Rents a hotel room at the Ashton twice a week. That Jason. The blood drained from Lisa's face. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think I was going to roll over and let you screw me over? Lisa swallowed. Hard. She put down her mug carefully, but I could see the way her hands trembled. How did you? I have my ways. I took a slow sip of my coffee, savoring the way she was unraveling in front of me. And here's the fun part, Lisa. I called his wife. Her eyes went wide. You did what? I called his wife. Lisa's chair scraped against the floor as she shot up. David, you did not. Oh, I did. I cut in, voice sharp. Amanda Carter knows everything. Every text. Every hotel visit. Every single disgusting little detail. I tilted my head. How's that for predictable? Lisa's breathing was uneven. Her fists clenched at her sides. You had no right. I stood up, slow and deliberate. No right. I let out a low, humorless chuckle. You blew up our marriage, Lisa. You spat in my face and told me to be a big boy about it. And now you're mad because I didn't play fair. Lisa's nostrils flared. This wasn't just about you. I raised a brow. Oh? Please enlighten me. What was this about, Lisa? Your boredom? Your need to feel alive? She growled in frustration, running a hand through her hair. I don't owe you **** king explanation. I stepped closer, lowering my voice to something lethal. No, but you do owe me a divorce. Her mouth snapped shut. I kept going. Amanda's kicking Jason out. He's about to lose everything. His house, his kids. Sound familiar? Lisa's breathing was sharp, erratic. I had never seen her like this before. Cornered. And you? I continued, voice soft but merciless. You're about to lose everything too. I'm taking the house. I'm taking my money. And I'm making sure that when I walk away, you have nothing. She lunged at me. Not to hit me, no, Lisa was too calculated for that. But she grabbed my arm, nails digging in, voice desperate now. David, wait. I shook her off. Too late. Lisa stumbled back. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw it, the moment she realized she had lost. I stepped back, grabbing my keys. Oh, and Lisa? I glanced at her over my shoulder. Be a big girl about it. And then I walked out the door. I didn't go to work that day. I didn't go anywhere familiar. Instead, I drove aimlessly, my mind running through everything that had just happened. Lisa's face when I said Jason's wife knew. The way her confidence cracked, splintering into something raw and desperate. She hadn't expected me to fight back. She thought I would crumble, that I would let her win. But now she was trapped. By the time I pulled into a random parking lot, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I knew who it was before I even picked up. David. came a woman's voice, sharp, controlled. "Amanda," I greeted. There was a pause. Then, "He's begging." A humorless laugh. "Crying, actually. I didn't know he could do that." I leaned back in my seat, exhaling through my nose. "You let him stay?" "Hell no." The car door slammed on her end. "Told him to pack a bag and get the F***K out. He tried to gaslight me, of course. Said it was a mistake. That I was being emotional. That I was overreacting." Another sharp laugh. "Overreacting. Imagine that." I shook my head. "They always think they can talk their way out of it." She hummed. "And your wife? She's in shock." "Good." Silence stretched between us. I could hear Amanda's car engine in the background. Then, her voice softened. "Thank you for telling me." I swallowed. "You deserved to know." A pause. Then, "What are you going to do now?" I exhaled slowly, watching a pigeon peck at the asphalt a few feet away. "Divorce her." "No hesitation?" "None." Another pause. Then Amanda spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "If you need a lawyer, I know some good ones." I let out a short laugh. "I might take you up on that." We didn't say goodbye. We just hung up. Two people bonded by betrayal, each dealing with it in our own way. When I got home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I stepped inside, shutting the door behind me. Something in the air felt off. Lisa was sitting on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. Her arms were crossed, her nails digging into her skin. She didn't look up when I entered. I walked past her into the kitchen, grabbed a water bottle, twisted the cap off. Still nothing from her. I waited, and then, barely above a whisper, "Are you really going to divorce me?" I took a sip, set the bottle down. "Yes." She let out a sharp, shaky breath. "Just like that." I turned to face her fully. "Just like that." Lisa lifted her head, eyes rimmed red. I wasn't sure if she had been crying or if it was just the exhaustion catching up to her. Either way, she looked lost, like she couldn't believe this was real. For the first time in forever, I had the power. She stood up suddenly, closing the distance between us. "David, please." "No." Her hands hovered near my arm like she wanted to touch me. "Fix this somehow." But she didn't. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. I huffed a bitter laugh. "Oh, I absolutely do." She shook her head, desperate now. Get up. "Okay? I know that. I was selfish, I was stupid. But nothing, Lisa." My voice was calm, unshaken. "You don't get to cheat on me for a year, tell me to be a big boy about it, and then beg me to stay when it all falls apart." Her eyes filled with something unreadable. Regret? Shame? Or was it just panic at losing the security she thought she'd always have? "You're making a mistake," she whispered. "No, Lisa," I said, stepping around her. "The mistake was ever trusting you in the first place." She didn't follow me when I went upstairs. She didn't try to stop me. She just stood there, watching everything slip away. And for once, I didn't care. The divorce papers were on the kitchen table the next morning. Lisa stared at them like they were a bomb about to go off. I sat across from her, arms crossed, waiting. She had been pacing for the last 15 minutes, running a hand through her hair, chewing her lip, stalling. "You're serious," she finally said. I didn't answer. She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "You really won't even try to fix this?" I arched a brow. "Fix what, Lisa? The year-long affair? The fact that you looked me in the eye and told me you couldn't stand me?" She flinched. "Good." I tapped the papers. "Sign them." She didn't move. "David, come on." Her voice was softer now, coaxing. "We have history." I tilted my head. "You should have thought about that before you let another man K you in a hotel twice a week." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You don't have to be so cruel." I barked out a short, humorless laugh. "Cruel? Cruel is what you did. I'm just cleaning up the mess." Lisa exhaled sharply, closing her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, she wasn't pleading anymore. No, something else had settled there. Something colder. "So that's it?" she said, voice clipped. 6 years. Gone just like that? I let the silence stretch between us before answering. "For me? Yeah. But you ended it a long time ago." She swallowed hard. Her eyes darted to the papers again, her fingers flexing at her sides. She was weighing her options, trying to calculate her next move. And then, just like that, the real Lisa came out. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. You know what? Fine. You want to play hardball? Let's do it. She snatched the papers off the table. You think you can just toss me aside like garbage? Like I meant nothing? I stayed perfectly still, letting her spiral. You want to know why I cheated? She continued, voice rising. Because you're boring, David. Predictable. You go to work, you come home. You do the same ***king routine every single day like a goddamn robot. She slammed the papers down. You lost me before Jason ever touched me. Something inside me twisted. Not with pain. Not with regret. With disgust. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. You lost me the moment you thought I would accept this. Lisa's jaw clenched. I stood up, grabbing my keys. Take your time with those. I nodded toward the papers. But don't take too long. I'd hate for things to get messy. Her eyes flickered with something wary. What the hell is that supposed to mean? I smirked. You'll see. Then I walked out, leaving her to wonder just how badly she was about to lose. Lisa called me 6 times that day. I didn't pick up. By the 7th, she left a voicemail. I listened to it in the car, parked outside a bar, letting the words spill through the speaker like poison. David, what the hell are you doing? Her voice was sharp, but there was something else beneath it now, fear. I know you're trying to screw me over. Just say it. Just say what you're planning instead of acting like some mysterious tough guy. A shaky breath. You're not like this. You don't play games. I smirked. That's where she was wrong. I had been playing her game for a year without even realizing it. Now I was playing mine. I deleted the voicemail and stepped out of the car. Inside the bar, Amanda Carter was already waiting. She looked different than when I first spoke to her on the phone. Sharper. Less like the blindfolded wife she had been the day before and more like someone ready for war. David, she greeted, lifting her drink. Thought you'd chicken out. I slid into the seat across from her. Not a chance. She studied me for a moment, eyes calculating. Then, she pushed a folder across the table. Here's what I've got on Jason. Bank records. Hidden credit card statements. Expenses he didn't think I'd notice. A dry chuckle. Men like him always think we're blind. I opened the folder. My eyes flicked over transactions at the Ashton. Gifts he had purchased. Not for his wife, but for Lisa. Jewelry. Designer bags. A dress I had seen hanging in our closet. I let out a slow exhale. He really thought he could have it all, huh? Amanda leaned back, swirling the ice in her glass. That's the thing about cheaters. They don't believe in consequences until it's too late. I glanced up. And what are your plans for Jason? Her lips curled into something ruthless. I'm taking everything. I grinned. That's what I like to hear. She nodded toward me. And Lisa? I closed the folder and rested a hand on top of it. She thinks I'm just going to hand her half of everything and walk away. Amanda tilted her head. And what are you actually going to do? I leaned forward, lowering my voice. I'm going to bury her. Her eyes flickered with something approving. We clinked our glasses. Lisa had no idea what was coming next. Lisa figured out something was wrong 2 days later. I was in the living room when she stormed in. Her phone clutched so tightly in her hand I thought she might snap it in half. David? She spat, voice sharp and laced with something close to panic. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Morning. Cut the crap. She threw the phone onto the coffee table. The screen was open to an email from our joint bank. Her accounts were frozen. I let out a small, satisfied hum. Ah, you saw that, huh? Lisa's hands shook. You locked me out of our money? I set my mug down and stretched my arms behind my head. Well, technically, I locked you out of my money. She blinked. We share that account, David. That money belongs to both of us. I arched a brow. Does it? I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. Because last time I checked, I was the one making deposits. You were the one making withdrawals. Lisa's face flushed red. I smiled. You really thought you were going to walk away with half, didn't you? Her eyes burned. That's how divorce works, idiot. I'm entitled to half. I exhaled through my nose. You were. Until I got a lawyer. Her face froze. I stood up, towering over her. Did you know that adultery can invalidate spousal support in some cases? I tilted my head. Amanda's lawyer has been very helpful, by the way. Corporate attorneys? Brutal. Lisa's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. You can't. I cut her off. I can. And I did. She was losing it now. Her fingers twitched at her sides, nails digging into her palms. You're AF *** king coward, David. I laughed. Coward. I stepped closer, voice dropping to something lethal. Lisa, you spent a year sneaking around behind my back, lying to my face, letting another man touch you while you came home and acted like nothing was wrong. And now, when you're finally facing real consequences, you want to cry about fairness. She swallowed hard. I took another step, closing the distance between us. You said I was predictable. I smirked. How's this for a surprise? Her breathing was uneven. I could see it now, the realization sinking in. Lisa had never seen me like this. She had spent so long believing she was in control, that I was just a safe, boring husband who would never fight back. But now, she was cornered. You're gonna regret this, she whispered, voice shaking. I tilted my head, amused. I regret ever loving you. But this, my lips curled. This I'm enjoying. Lisa inhaled sharply, like I had slapped her. I picked up my coffee again and turned away, dismissing her entirely. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an appointment with my lawyer. You should probably get one too, if you can afford it. Her breath hitched. I walked out, leaving her standing there, finally realizing what it felt like to be powerless. Lisa didn't speak to me for 2 days. I think she was in shock. She had always been the one with the upper hand, always the one who controlled the game. And now, piece by piece, I was ripping that power away from her. But on the 3rd day, she snapped. I had just come home from a meeting with my lawyer. The second I stepped inside, Lisa was already waiting. Arms crossed, foot tapping, eyes burning with pure, undiluted rage. You think you're smart, don't you? She hissed. I locked the door behind me. Well, I managed to outplay a woman who thought she could cheat on me and walk away with half my money. So yeah, I'd say I'm pretty smart. Her nostrils flared. I should have left you a long time ago. I smirked. You tried. You just weren't fast enough. Lisa took a threatening step forward. You want to hurt me? Fine. But don't act like you were some perfect husband, David. She jabbed a finger at my chest. You ignored me. You made me feel like a ghost in my own home. I let out a slow, deliberate breath. So instead of talking to me, you spread your legs for a married man? She slapped me, hard. My head snapped to the side, a sharp sting blooming across my jaw. But I didn't move, didn't react. I just turned back to her, slowly, until our eyes met. Lisa froze, because I wasn't angry. I was amused. Oh, sweetheart, I murmured, voice calm. Too calm. That was the last mistake you'll ever make in this house. Her breath hitched. I stepped past her, pulling a document from my bag and placing it neatly on the kitchen counter. What is that? She asked, voice tight. I turned to her, smiling. Your eviction notice. Her face drained of color. You can't. I shrugged. I can. And I did. Lisa's hands shook as she snatched up the paper, scanning the words in disbelief. You're kicking me out of our house? I grabbed a beer from the fridge, cracked it open, and leaned against the counter. No, Lisa. I'm kicking you out of my house. Her eyes snapped up to mine, pure hatred swimming in them. The court won't let you do this. I took a slow sip of my drink. You should read more carefully. Turns out, when one spouse cheats, the other can file for exclusive use of the home during divorce proceedings. I grinned. Thanks to the little adultery clause in our prenup, I had a strong case. Lisa's breath came in sharp, panicked bursts. I watched as realization crashed over her. She was losing everything. Her money, gone. Her reputation, in flames. Her home, no longer hers. You have 1 week to get out, I added, finishing my beer. Or the sheriff escorts you out. Lisa's hand trembled around the paper. I could see it happening, the fight leaving her, the walls caving in. For the first time, she looked afraid. I leaned in close, lowering my voice to something soft, almost gentle. Be a big girl about it, Lisa. She collapsed into a chair, and I walked away. Lisa left 4 days later, not because she wanted to, but because she had no choice. I came home that evening to find her sitting on the floor, surrounded by half-packed boxes, staring blankly at the wall. For a brief moment, she looked so small, so defeated. If this had been a month ago, I might have felt sorry for her. Now, I just watched. You're really going through with this? She murmured, not looking at me. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. I already did. She let out a shaky breath. I don't know where to go. I arched a brow. Not my problem. Her head snapped up, eyes flashing. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I tilted my head. Do you think I should be suffering? Lisa scoffed, running a hand through her hair. You don't have to be such a DK about it. I pushed off the doorframe and stepped toward her. You know what's funny? You spent a year treating me like I was nothing, like I was just some boring, predictable husband you had to tolerate. But now that you've lost, suddenly, I'm the cruel one. She pressed her lips into a thin line. I crouched down to her level, resting my elbows on my knees. Let me make one thing clear, Lisa. I didn't do this to you. I pointed at the boxes. You did. Her jaw clenched, her breath uneven. David. I held up a hand. No, you don't get to say my name like that. Not anymore. She shut her mouth. I stood up, exhaling slowly. You should probably finish packing. Lisa swallowed hard. And what if I don't? I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and held it up. The sheriff's number. Her face fell. She stared at the phone for a long moment before pushing herself up off the floor. You really don't care at all, do you? I took a step back. Not anymore. Lisa inhaled sharply, grabbing a box and shoving the last of her things inside. She was unraveling now. Every movement was stiff, angry, desperate. She slammed the box shut, knuckles white. I hope you know you just lost the best thing that ever happened to you. I chuckled. Lisa, you weren't even the best thing that happened to me this week. Her lips parted, like she wanted to scream, to throw something, to say something that would hurt me. But she had nothing left. So she grabbed her bag and stormed past me, shoving her shoulder into mine as she passed. I let her. The door swung open. She hesitated for just a second, like she was waiting for me to stop her. I didn't. She stepped outside. The door slammed shut behind her. And just like that, Lisa was gone. I let out a slow breath, staring at the empty space where she had been. I thought I'd feel relief. I thought I'd feel vindicated. But what I actually felt? Nothing. And that was the best feeling of all.